So good morning guys, you are group number 6 for English Ed 115. We are going to discuss about the lesson design in teaching prose, materials and resources in teaching prose, and assessment in teaching prose. So for the first lesson, 4.5, it will be discussed by one of my group mates, Mr. Bryan Panganiban. So Mr. Bryan.
Hello class, good morning. So today, I'm going to teach the lesson design in teaching prose. So, Mr. Lucky Sanoy, can you please go to the next one so that we would begin the teaching prose there. So, teaching prose. So, prose is meant for learning a language. So, prose is meant for learning a language that teaching prose enables the students to understand the passage, to read fluently, or to enrich their vocabulary and to enjoy reading and writing. So it enables the learners to extend their knowledge of vocabulary and structures and to become more proficient in their foreign language skills. Another one is that teaching prose means teaching, no, still there, Mr. Lucky. So another one is that teaching prose means teaching reading with comprehension. So teaching prose means teaching reading with comprehension. The power of comprehension can be promoted through the reading and listening. Okay? Teaching prose enables the students to understand the passage, to read fluently, and to enrich their vocabulary, to enjoy reading and writing. So an aim for this teaching prose is to develop the language, right, the ability of the students, and it is an intensive study of language. So the language ability helps the learners to the use of English language without any problem. So that is the teaching prose. So may we go now to the next slide, which is different steps involved in teaching prose. So a prose is not for memorization of questions and answer, but for learning a language. So the prose lesson contains structure, vocabulary, grammar, views, and ideas for comprehension. So the students read prose with comprehension and write sentences about the lesson using the correct structures and content words, which is basically true. So this kind of different steps in teaching prose says exactly on how does the students read prose with comprehension and write sentence about the lesson using the correct structures and content words. So we will know more when we go to the next slide. Okay, so next one is the different steps involved in teaching prose. So first is the introducing the prose lesson. May I, Mr. Sanoy, can you please read what is the introducing the prose lesson? Can you
Introducing the
please unmute?
prose lesson. Introduction of a lesson is to fulfill two purposes. They are to recollect the past knowledge, to win students' attention to the new subject.
Okay, so teachers should try to motivate the students to study the new lesson. So various efforts made by teacher to create an interest or to attract the attention of the students is known as preparation of the lesson. So the teacher introduce the lesson by asking appropriate questions, or he uses models or pictures. So the questions arouse the interest for the new lesson. So the teacher tests the previous knowledge of the students and links it to the subject. So another one is teaching structure. So teaching structure meaning is it helps the students to clip its meaning and use. Another one is this helps them not only to understand the meaning of the new item but also its use in different contexts. opportunities are provided to the students to use the structures themselves. Okay, so it is a complex, multifaceted activity, so often requiring us, an instructor, to juggle multiple tasks and goals simultaneously and flexibility. Okay, the following small but powerful set principles can make teaching both more effective and efficient. So by helping us create the condition that supports student and learning and minimize the conditions that support student and policies. So while implementing this, principles require a commitment in time and effort. So it often solves time and energy later on. So when we teach, okay, remember this, when we teach, we do not just teach the content, but we teach students the content. Did you get what I mean? I repeat, when we teach, we do not just teach the content, but we teach the students the content. So for example, that students' cultural and generational backgrounds influence how they see the world. So disciplinary backgrounds lead students to approach problems in different ways. So students' prior knowledge, both accurate and inaccurate aspects, shapes the new learning. Okay, next one is the dividing the text into smaller units. So Mr. Jayson, can you read the number 3? Unmute.
On dividing the text into smaller units, the text will have to be split up into smaller, more manageable units or sections. This will facilitate the teacher to present the lesson interestingly and efficiently.
Okay, so which is very true. So imagine when the teacher put a lot of definition to a single PowerPoint presentation, what will be the outcome? Of course, the learner will not able to understand well the discussion, which simply puts them into question to their mind. Maybe they will imagine what is that all about. So we divide the text or shorten the text in order to make it easier to understand, and it will function to their appropriate critical thinking skills. Okay, so number 4 is that teaching vocabulary. So the teacher uses an object, a model, or a picture to give clear ideas about new words and their meaning. So anything that a teacher could do as his material. So the purpose of exposition are to clear the meaning of difficult words, phrases, and idioms, to make the comprehension of the passage easy, and to promote intensive reading. So first is that you know that idioms and sayings in everyday conversational English so can help you to speak English by learning English idiomatic expressions. And also this is a list which contains exactly one of the most commonly used in idioms and their meaning. And from the next is to make comprehension of the passage easy is that get involved or in the paragraph to understand it. So underline important lines or parts of the passage to answer the question. So try to translate also a complex line in an easy one in your own words and your own language. But how can we promote intensive reading? That is the question. So intensive reading activities include the skimming a text for specific information to answer true or false statements, or filling gaps in a summary. So scanning a text or match headings to paragraphs. So and scanning jumbled paragraphs and then read carefully, put them into the correct order. And next one is model reading by the teacher. Mr. Milano, can you read the number 5? Thank you. Mr. Milano. Oh, nawala si Milano. Okay. So, Mr. Chanha, can you please read the number 5?
Model reading by teacher. The teacher reads the selected passage aloud. Teacher should be careful about pronunciation, words, phrases, and intonation in his reading before the students. This model reading by the teachers helps the students for oral comprehension.
Okay. So, when it comes to the number 5, what we think is that how can we help the students for an oral comprehension? Okay, so first, introduce the assigned text and discuss the purpose of the think aloud strategy. Develop the set of questions to support thinking aloud. Okay, so give students opportunities to practice the technique and offer structured feedback to students. Another one is that read the selected passage aloud as the students read the same text silently, or at the certain points stop and think aloud the answer to some of pre-selected questions. And also demonstrate how good readers monitor their understanding by rereading a sentence or reading ahead to clarify and look for context clues. So students then learn to offer answers to the questions as the teacher leads the think aloud. Okay, so that is the model reading by the teacher. So the next one will continue to one of my partner, Miss Shella Mae Dangiwan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's go for the number 6. It says here silent reading by the students. By students. So it means sustained silent reading, or it is known in other words the sustained silent reading, or the SSS. It is also the independent quiet reading. So in here, teacher gives time for the student to read a passage on herself for maximum of 10 to 15 minutes. So this practice of providing student a time to read a book or other materials they are choosing. So you are also so um, you are encouraging to read and read some books, and you are encouraging their interest in books. So if we want to practice to read independently, we need to give our students the opportunity to read for an extended time, so to link their attention span. And so there are frequent benefits of reading independently, like increasing their concentration for extended period of time. And other from that, their vocabulary is, you are banking on their vocabulary, and they found the reading as a recreational learning. So when you are also encouraging your student to read, you are also like praising them, and then you're building up their interest. So it will, so as an effect, they will have a positive attitude towards reading. So they will going to um, love the books, and that's it. And then we have some benefits of reading independently, like enhances reading enjoyment, increases comprehension, and improves writing skills. Do you understand? Any question? Okay, so let's go for the number 7. So this is the testing comprehension. It says here to check students' comprehension ability. So why do teachers conduct tests on the comprehensions of their students? So it is because some young readers, they are not aware. They're not always aware that their comprehension has broken down. So hearing teachers talk about their internal thought process can help students to mimic their strategy. And this also the no child left behind law, because you are conducting a testing, so you will be able to trace up the ano ba to? The important the ano ba to? Wait lang. Trace up so that the areas of improvement. So tests are conducted as part of teachers' responsibility to know the areas that need some improvement. So it supports the no child left behind law. And for the number 8, testing application. So it says here it evaluates the achievement of the learners. Can be done after the discussion or at the end of every lesson. So you are conducting testing application because you're trying to find areas of difficulty in order to take corrective measure that tests are administered in school. So in here also, you were able to know if your student have understand what you have taught to them, or if they need some attention, some of your attention, if they are not, or if they are already left behind. Okay, so let's go for the next slide, please. Okay, so number 9, loud reading by the students. So it says here, teacher asks students to read a passage in a class one by one. So it also, students are asked to keep the book 30 centimeters away from their eyes, while the left behind will hold the book, leaving the right hand free. So in here, you are practicing the pronunciation of your students. You are improving their speaking and pronunciation skills, also for them to acquire the language easily. So it improves the tone, rhyme, and fluency. Each student is asked to read a short passage by letting your students, to read a short passage. So at the end also of the reading of wait lang, sorry. So that's it. Students are asked to read loudly to practice their pronunciation. Okay, so for wait lang. Difference. So there are also difference of reading inside the mind and reading aloud. So if you're really advanced or trying to get through some materials, you can read in your head, it is faster. But if you're trying to work on your speaking and pronunciation skills, reading aloud is much better. So let's go for the number 10, giving an assignment. So it says here, take-home activities given by the teachers. So purposes: to recall the lesson, to apply what they have learned, do exercise based on the taught unit. So in here also, you're giving a lesson for them to have an advanced reading and for them to improve their independent learning skills. And the assignments also, promotes connect the new lesson with one just completed, so that the pupil may gain a whole view of the subject. Do you have any clarification, guys? Sorry.
None, ma'am. None.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hello. Our next topic would be aims of teaching prose. So with the aims of teaching prose, it focuses on the content and the literary of the texts. So with the aims of teaching prose, we will be discussing extensive and intensive reading. So with extensive reading, we'll just go over with the definition and discuss information later on. So with extensive reading, these are rapid reading of large quantities of materials or longer reading for general understanding. It is also a lifelong reading habit, enjoyment in general reading skills. With intensive reading, it is reading in details with specific learning aims and tasks. And it also a detailed meaning, developing reading skills and vocabulary and grammar knowledge. In extensive reading, it is a light type of reading, and it also what we do when we read for pleasure. With intensive reading, it is word for word reading. It is also what our teacher often do with students in class. Extensive reading, we normally read novels, newspaper, and magazines. So um, with these examples, we can see that it's a long version of texts like novels and newspapers, which we do normally for pleasure. It is also an important skills for extensive reading is the ability to choose your own texts. In intensive reading, it involves closely at the text for a specific purpose. So we are checking information or understanding the text word per word and the moral of the story. And during the intensive reading, the teacher usually chooses the text. Unlike with extensive reading, we are the one who choose the text. So in extensive reading, another feature of extensive reading is that there are no tasks set. Unlike with intensive reading, it is usually reading done with specific purpose in mind, which is knowing the story, understanding the story, and knowing the moral of the story. In extensive reading, it is ideally students do not have to answer questions or write book reports after they have read the story. With intensive reading, students normally answer a set of questions, complete some exercises or assignment about what they have read. We are already discussing differences between extensive reading and intensive reading, but let me go over some. In extensive reading, it is usually a long text or books. Unlike when in intensive reading, these are just normally short texts. In extensive reading, it helps students to develop reading fluency. And in intensive reading, it helps students to develop their reading skills, vocabulary, and grammar knowledge. In extensive reading, we only do this for general understanding of the text. Unlike with extensive reading, we normally focus on the reading comprehension of the students, which are the reading skills, the vocabulary, and the grammar knowledge of the students. For extensive reading, we normally base it on what is being read because there's no such there is no in-depth study of the text, but with intensive reading, it is focused on linguistic components, which is in-depth study of the text. For extensive reading, as we have discussed earlier, it is just a topic that the students enjoy or read. Um, in intensive reading, these are the topics given by their teachers to study. Extensive reading, these are the activity after reading, is more complex because you need to go over if for example we will be giving a longer text, this will have more complex activity because you need to understand each chapters of the story. Unlike with intensive reading, activity after reading is easier because it's shorter texts, so it's easier for the students to go back and understand more fully the story. In extensive reading, lastly, it discourages overuse of dictionary because it's just for basic understanding of the uh, the story or the text, novel, or such. Unlike with intensive reading, students are encouraged to use the dictionary to find different words and text that they are not understanding in text. As a teacher, here is our role. For extensive reading, we are the promoter. So we promote reading for the students to read more. And we persuade students to read. We also we are organizer here. Why organizer? Because um, if we are to tackle such novel, for example, in our Filipino in high school, we discuss Jose Rizal's No Limitangare and El Filibusterismo. Normally, we organize already the text, and um, we are summarizing everything already. And for this, teacher monitors students' reading. So we monitor each student's our students' reading with extensive reading if they have fully understand the text. With intensive reading, we are organizer. Why we are organizer at first? Because we give them the topic and what text they need to read. That's the reason why we are organizer first. We are also observer because they can just simply read the text in the classroom immediately in one sitting, because normally these are short stories. We can immediately provide feedback with the students of for example, if we are to discuss the text, they can immediately read through and ask questions, and we can provide a feedback. We are also prompter because if we are to discuss the topic, we can just simply correct information if the students do not understand it fully. And that is my topic for aims of teaching pros.
Hello guys, I'm going to talk about materials and resources in teaching pros. Next slide please. Textbook. A textbook is an organized body of material used for the formal study of subject area. So textbooks effectively helps one in teaching prose. It calls for breaking a longer piece of prose up into smaller sections. This separation of text allows for multiple close readings to ensure students involve their own thinking in the text as they read. Repeated reading helps students build comprehension and become more comfortable with an author's writing skill. So, a discrete, well-bounded scope. It means wide range of textbook materials are essential in teaching and learning process. Such textbooks are meant to be read intensively in order to understand their content and writer's intention and viewpoint of a certain topic or idea. Use of examples and problems. This material provides examples and problems that aims for readers' comprehension and literacy skills. It shapes readers not only to be a better reader, but also better overall thinkers. On internally consistent style. So it means it it does not change style. It guides students to better comprehension and engagement with text. Textbook often aims to evoke emotions or ideas that require input from readers' own experiences for comprehension to take place. Utility for future reference. It means material such as textbook provides data essential for future references on certain topic. It aids easy access on the information needed by the teacher or student. Lastly, a structure that makes sense. Textbook does not only provide information about a certain topic, but also aid both teacher and students to a range of related topic or ideas that guides in mastering a subject. Also, it is to understand. Next slide, please. Academic journals. An academic or scholarly journal is a peer-reviewed predicate that focuses on a narrow field of study. So academic journal is an instrument tool for helping students develop their ability to critically examine their surroundings from multiple perspectives and to make informed judgments about what they see and hear. Academic journals make learning visible by providing a safe, accessible space for students. It will also help students to process ideas, formulate questions, and retain information. So academic journals have used when doing scholarly research, used to find out what has been studied on your topic, used to find bibliographies that point to the other relevant research. Examples: Journal of Communication, The Historian, a Journal of American Medical Association, and Lancet. Lancet is the weekly peer-reviewed general medical journal. It's its oldest and best-known general medical journal. So, can you go back before slide? So, we find academic journals when we give research or demo. We use references through academic journals. So academic journals written by whose major in the topic or who's professional about the topic. Next slide, please. Magazines. A magazine is a collection of articles and images about diverse topics of popular interest and current events. So magazine materials such as magazines are full of content that supports growing readers in their literacy development and inspires their love in reading. Students are exposed to variety of text that encourages them to read engaging content. Magazines also offers timely topics that connect with content areas. Magazine blogs and newsletters are great resources for further exploration of content to promote literacy and learning. So magazines have used to find information or opinions about popular culture, used to find up-to-date information about current events, used to find general articles for people who are not necessarily specialists about the topic. So magazine is more fun and entertaining than textbook and academic journals. Also is updated per week so we can know current events or other cultures. Next, please. Database. A database contains citation of articles in magazines, journals, and newspapers. They may also contain citation to podcasts, blogs, videos, and other media types. So database aids teaching and learning accessible. It provides summarized or full content articles. It permits users to search, sort, organize, store, and retrieve information in an organized filing system. It has the potential to transform learning and teaching into a personal, personalized experience that meets, meets the needs of individuals and ensures that no student is lost during the way. So it has used when you want to find articles on your topic in magazines, journals, or newspapers. So there are examples. Academic Search Complete is a general database, and Compendex is an engineering database. ABI Inform is a business database. So we can get the data through blogs or YouTube or video. Okay, next, presenter will report.
Next is newspaper. A newspaper is a collection of articles written by different authors about the current events, and it is usually published daily. Sometimes newspaper include literary works like poetry, prose, and short stories. We use newspapers to find current information about the international, national, local events. We use it also to find editorials, commentaries, and popular opinions of different people. Examples of newspapers are New York Times, Manila Bulletin, the Midland Courier, the Herald Express, and others. Moving on is encyclopedia. Encyclopedia are a collection of short factual stories often written by different contributors who are knowledgeable about the topic. Encyclopedia has two kinds, the general encyclopedia and the subject encyclopedia. The general encyclopedia covers a wide variety of topics, while subject encyclopedia is specific. It covers a small yet deepening topic. We use encyclopedia when looking for background information on a topic, when trying to find key ideas, important dates, or concepts. An example of encyclopedias are the African American Encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia Americana. These two are considered subject encyclopedia because it's only focusing on the American life, American literature, while An example of general encyclopedia is the Britannica and the World Book. Moving on is the website. A website allows us to access different types of information on the internet using a browser like Google, Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and others. We use website to find current information all on about the government, about a company, and to find information about hobbies and personal interests. Example of a website is the YouTube, the www.loc.gov, or the Library of Congress. There are a lot of websites. Next is oh, this is the last but not the least material for teaching prose, the audiovisual aids. Audiovisual aids is a learning material that makes the learning situation as real as possible. It gives us first-hand knowledge through the organs of hearing and seeing. So visual aids are any material or any device that could or any, that could improve or make the learning experience better by making it realistic and dynamic and concrete. Examples of these are the LCD projector, the film projector, the TV, microphones, laptops, multimedia, and a lot more. And so that's it, and that's my report. Thank you.
Good morning, guys. My topic will be about 4.8 Assessment in Teaching Prose. So, we are to discuss how the teacher can assess the learning of a student when it comes to prose. In our resource, it suggests various innovative teaching strategies that the teacher can use, not just the checklist, rubrics, and alike. However, to better understand this topic, we're also going to include those assessments in the end. So we have here number one, analyzing student work. A great deal of information can be learned from students' work, tests, and quizzes. When teachers take time to analyze student work, they gain knowledge about a student's current knowledge, attitude, and skills about the subject matter, strengths, weaknesses, and learning style. Um, Need for further or special assistance. And then, so in here, it basically says that the teacher must first know his or her student in order for his or in order to have a better teaching and learning experience for both parties. So this approach lets teachers modify their instruction to be more effective in the future. So of course, if you know your student, what he likes, dislikes, or where she excels and where he or she lacks or needs improvement, then you can adjust your teaching style or uh, your teaching materials so that you can provide for those who are uh, in need. So that will improve the learning experience and also will serve as, of course, a learning experience for the teacher too. Okay, so for number two, the round robin charts. This strategy involves passing charts among groups to assess understanding. Each group of 4 or 5 students begin with a chart and some markers. The group records an answer to an open-ended question. They can also share knowledge they have on a topic covered in class. Once the students finish the chart, they pass it on to the next group. Once every group has worked on every chart, responses are discussed as a class. So, the process here is this promotes communication between students, and also it is a fun way of questioning and having answers, since it involves the passing of the charts. And then, for example, you have chart 1. It has the question, who is your favorite character in this story? And then why? And then in chart 2, what did you learn from the story? So the groups assigned per chart will write their answers. And then after writing their answers, they will pass the chart to the other group. And then the other group will also answer that uh, question in the chart. Then after passing those charts, they will share their answers uh, in front of the class. Okay. So for number 3, strategic questioning. So from the title itself, I think if most or probably all of the teachers already apply this when it comes to teaching roles or in assessing the students in what they have learned from the story. So, questioning strategies may be used with individuals, small groups, or the entire class. Effective formative assessment strategies involve asking students to answer high order questions such as why and how. So, we have here, for example, your class or the teacher already discussed the story in front of the class. And then in the end, the teacher can ask the whole class why, or a specific person, a specific student, why did the author entitled his story as this one, or the air castles, for example. Why did the author entitled his story as air castles, or why is the title of the story air castles? So in that, the students will process that question. It will promote the higher order thinking skills, since it will let the students read between the lines of the message of the story. And also you can use the how in a way that, for example, how can you relate El Pili or Noling Metangere with the line with the lives of the Filipinos before? So that. And then they can help the teachers discern the level of extent of the students' understanding. Of course, the teacher will depend that the understanding of the student to how they answer the question and how accurate or uh, how rich the answer is. So for number 3, three-way summaries. The idea is to use different modes of thinking and attention to detail in response to a question or topic inquiry. They write 3 different summaries. It could be 10 to 15 words long, 30 to 50 words long, 75 to 100 words long. So how long the summary will also depend on how long the story, of course. If the story is that not that much long, they can use the 10 to 15 word summary. And then if it's really long, you can also give them the 75 to 100 word long, so that they will not have a hard time in writing. They will not be limited to a very, very short uh, span of words. You can even have students use Twitter or Facebook posts. So, of course, with the integration of ICT, they can also use Twitter and Facebook posts. In that way, they are also somewhat comfortable, or they have this familiar ground that they can use, and that can also enhance their literacy in, of course, using the technology and the social media applications. Not only in Facebook, you can also use Canva, Google Classroom, and others. They'll have experience communicating messages with minimal wording and characters. So for number 5, think pair, and share. The instructor asks a question and the student writes down their answer. Students are then placed in pairs to discuss their responses. Teachers are able to move around the classroom and listen to various discussion. So in here, we have, for example, it will enable the students to communicate with their classmates. So it will involve or it will enhance their communication skills, their interpersonal skills, and of course, it is a fun way of doing assessment. For example, they will have a question here. What scene or moment did you like most in the story The Little Prince? So they will exchange answers and questions with that, and then the teacher will just listen to them, and then probably in the end of the discussion, they will process what is the common scene that was heard by the teachers from the students. So it lets teachers gain valuable insight into levels of understanding. So for number 6, 3, 2, 1 countdown. The teacher gives his or her students cards to write on, or they can respond already. They are required to respond a three-way summary, three separate statements. So 3 things you don't know before, 2 things that surprised you about this topic, 1 thing you want to start doing with what you've learned. So the teacher can also ask them different kinds of questions aside from what is stated above. So this is a very interesting way of assessing students. Since it involves the numbers 3 to 1, it makes it iconic. So we have here, we can apply this in learning or assessing prose in a way that, for example, you have number 3, 3 things that I or the student find disappointing in the story The Fence. Okay, so for number 2, 2 things that surprised me in the story, and then 1 thing I've learned and would want to apply in real life from the story. So you can have a diverse questioning or diverse way of having students to what uh, answer questions, or you can have uh, different types of questions as long as it involves the 3 to 1 countdown. Okay, so for the following or the other strategies or the other innovative strategies in assessing prose, we will have Mr. Sander